Hello and welcome to the God is a Geek podcast, episode 481. We're getting up there. We're getting right up there. And yeah, my name's Adam Cook and I'm joined by the biggest cast we've had this year, I think. So rather than just, introduce everyone one by one and potentially mess things up, I'm just going to say, hello gang, how are you? Introduce yourselves for a change. Why don't you do that, huh? Why don't you introduce yourselves?
I'm Mick. I'm from Kettering. I like walks in the park and... Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
This is why you introduced
This is why you do it.
again.
He's left us floundering.
You just have to speak.
I forgot my name for a minute,
You forgot your name. You forgot your name.
Okay,
Hello, everybody.
My name's Roger Armitage.
Roger.
Armitage. I'm 86, happily single, ready to mingle.
I'm Frank Trojan, retired porn star.
Frank Trojan.
That's a great porn star
Frank
name.
Trojan.
Is that what you do on the side?
Wow.
Well,
AKA.
not anymore. I'm retired.
Games.
Ghostwire Tokyo is a game, isn't it, everybody? That's a video game that is out. Oh, well, by the time people watch this, it will be out.
I'm actually quite interested to see what other people thought of this because I haven't really talked to anyone about my problems with it. But it looks wonderful. Like, it's a very beautiful game, and the developers have done a great job of incorporating the kind of Japanese folklore and making it all look very pretty and whatnot. But the how did people find the movement in this game? Just out of curiosity, before I carry on.
The movement,
because I find it quite slow and a bit clumbersome at times, or a lot of the time.
I think, I was talking to Adam about this. I feel like it is in the sense that you're not some sort of ninja assassin, but I feel like this game wouldn't work if you could dodge out of the way and really slickly move around the enemies and stuff, because that's not what it's about. The story is, as you know, is around this average Joe Akito just getting kind of pulled into something that he's not a part of. And I think this, for me, the fact that the combat is in first person and there isn't those kind of slick movement mechanics means that it is a challenge. Otherwise, the combat would be completely pointless if you could lock on, dodge, strafe, all that sort of stuff. So I didn't find it cumbersome, really. There are a couple of times you get kind of stuck in corners and stuff, but not to the point where it's a problem. But I'm guessing you feel differently, which is why you brought it up.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm just I don't know. I just think with games like Deathloop and Dying Light, I expected it to feel a bit better, moving around and using all these abilities quite fluidly, and I never felt that. But then maybe that's just me. It's clearly just me, I think.
I was quite looking forward to it until I started to see reviews of it. Not necessarily because of the scores or even what was written, but like our video review, which I think, did I put that together? I think I put it together. And when I was watching the footage of that, when I was doing the video, and it looked like the sort of game where I thought, I'm reading the words and I'm looking at the footage and I haven't got a clue how that game would feel without playing it, if you know what I mean. Because it just looks like one minute it's really like just a guy running around fairly empty streets, and then all of a sudden it's a guy fucking whipping shit, it looks kind of mad, but at the same time it also looked kind of ploddy. Like it looked a bit. I thought it looked a bit dull. Obviously, I haven't played it.
Ploddy is a great word, actually. I find it a bit ploddy. The thing is, I'm not down on it because obviously I liked it. So I gave it an 8. Was it?
Yeah, you don't remember.
Yeah, an 8.
No, I've had to play a lot recently. All right, I forgot where I am.
It's fair.
There's some. Right, let's just take away the movement and all that bollocks for now. Like
take away the game. Take away
You're just a guy in the middle of the road.
No, there's some really the story itself is middle of the road, but a lot of the stuff indoors, because the city it's big and you can move around quite freely and that, but it is still quite constricted and not in a bad way. But like when you have to go in like buildings and do certain quests, like quest lines, there's some really great design choices, especially when it goes a bit weird and a bit kind of dreamlike. Like there's an area where you like newspapers start to cover doors and it all starts to go a bit weird, and then there's other bits where you like in a painting, a bit like an Escher drawing with the staircases. It's very kind of well designed in that sense, and like there's a lot of like it's a really good looking game, I think.
Yes,
and
I feel like we talked about this like last week. We're talking about it in a preview sense. Like it's there are moments in this game where like it goes almost like a little bit horror, a little bit sort of like Bloober Team or like Manifold Garden even at times. And you're like, this is cool. Like when it like just kind of throws a bit of caution to the wind and like just goes a bit crazy. I mean, the game's a little bit crazy, but like really like in those indoor bits in the like say in the interiors where it just sort of I don't know, just suddenly go, I'm just going to flip shit on its side because I can. Why not? Now right is down and you just got to deal with it. It's those moments are really good, and I find those bits really interesting. And the thing that I found with it is that I was almost disappointed when I wasn't doing that sort of stuff because that stuff was so good. You wanted it to lean really into clever in places, like you say, but it was also quite sparse. And I think it depends how you play this game. I think you mentioned this a lot in your review. The main story isn't the longest story in the world, but there is a lot of additional side content, collectibles, exploring all of that stuff. Some great guides on God's Geek. Go and have a look. But like, if you play this game like you're going to do the main story and all the side stuff, then you'll probably find that a lot of that weirdy stuff is quite spread out. Because some of a lot of side missions don't include that. Whereas I think
you find the side missions have got like a load of character. Like that's something I really enjoyed. They reminded me of the Yakuza games, if I'm honest. With like I said, I think I said that on the pod. With a bit less humor, maybe, but I don't think the humor would quite come across.
No, I think you're right. I think the way it so they're all very separate stories, and what it all boils down to is. Like when you like hoover up the spirits with your paper doll, like you can hear them talking and they're like it's really tragic. Like there's a little girl crying for a mum. There's like someone who's fallen off a building, and it's all like quite heavy going. And that's when the side missions come in. Is that they're all very diverse in what the actual job is of the side quest. But it does build character, and you although there aren't NPCs walking around ever. You do find out a lot about Shibuya in this district in Tokyo just through these side quests.
That's one of the, like I'm not going to sit here and pretend I read every review. I don't actually read as much as I used to. I don't have time. I expect probably all the same. But one thing I did see, one sort of criticism I saw in a few different places was, the world's a bit empty. That's intentional. Like it has to be, otherwise
I also don't agree that it is.
No, but I just think it's a very strange criticism because, like,
the nature of the story is that it's empty.
Yeah, to explain, you're like the last person alive. Like everyone else in your area is gone, spirit form, blah blah blah. So, I think, obviously that's definitely an story intent, but two, I don't want to sort of seg into Elden Ring, but I remember someone in our Discord saying that they wish that, and I've seen this in other places like Bloodborne. I've seen this for lots of From games where people wish they could turn the combat off and just explore this world with like zero jeopardy and just really look at what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying that Ghostwire Tokyo does that because there is combat, but I really appreciate, I like how the verticality is introduced. I like once you understand how the verticality works, how much you can move around. I don't think I quite agree with Chris, although I understand Chris White, in terms of the movement. But I think I leaned more towards what Chris Hyde said, in that if you were like this ninja, I think it would trivialise it. It would be too easy. I do understand what he's saying though, because the first thing I did I started the game, and the first thing I did was up the speed of movement for the camera because it felt incredibly slow to move. But I've had this feeling before. It tends to be these first-person Bethesda games where I feel that in my mind, this was made for a PC, wasn't it? Where you've got direct control with the mouse. And I often feel that way in these kind of games where they were designed... I mean, they're made on PC, but I feel like it was designed to be played on a PC with a mouse, whereas when you pick up a controller, you have to find your sweet spot, which isn't to excuse it, because let's face it, it's a PS5 exclusive, it will sell. I don't know.
It will sell because I think people need to listen to us when we talk, because it's not an open world built for exploration. It's not that, and it's not massive. But it's not like filled with you're not traveling for hundreds of meters. It's like it's quite compact. Like
they kind of don't make games like this anymore.
No,
they're kind of like it's the 5 to 6 hour indie, or it's the massive open world. I mean, look at every game this year that people have talked lots about. Horizon, Elden Ring, these are massive, massive games. And this is that somewhere in the middle game. This is that kind of like the Tomb Raider reboots, where they're kind of 12 hours, but 30 if you want to do everything. And I would be really sad to see that go, because I kind of dig that. It does feel, it feels a little bit like the B-tier game at times. Not visually, I should say, not visually, but in terms of, yes, it's Bethesda. You can't go, and that means it's first party because it's Xbox, because this was long before Xbox. But, there are a lot of recurring voice lines, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed that. There are a lot of the same voice line. It's one of those where 6 years ago you might have gone, it's a shame they didn't record another 3 sort of takes for that moment, but they didn't.
When you jump on a car, it's like, you shouldn't be doing that. What if the person's still alive? You'd have your guts for garters.
Yeah,
it doesn't say that.
No, but I wish he did. If it was set in the north,
if you did.
That would be...
Yeah, but there is a lot of repetition, and it really is. There really is a lot to do, and it is 8 hours. I would say 8 to 9 hours you could probably complete the main story in. But there was about 20-ish hours. I think I put in about 17 overall, and that was with all the side quests, all the statues of Jizz, all the all the shrines and the Torii gates, which are really cool. Finding all the beads.
Jesus.
Don't know why that makes me laugh.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Well, I do. But
I know why that makes you laugh.
It shouldn't. But no, I like it, and I liked it. Not a lot, but I enjoyed it.
I don't know. I mean, do you know what, man? I think it's a really odd time for that game. If it were like a 10 out of 10, we'd be just like, there would be no middle ground here where we're all sort of umming and ahhing. But when you actually think about it, what an odd time for that game to come out now. Really,
it's like a fish out of water with everything else that's around.
We've been really spoiled with 2 big games, and it's kind of come just after them, and I just felt spoiled because of Elden Ring more recently, I guess, and how perfect that is.
So you haven't...
it's go on, sorry.
So you haven't had a chance to talk about Elden Ring, so we may as well, because apart from Lyle, everyone's still playing it, so we may as well use this as our Elden Ring moment.
I didn't want to dwell on it too much, but I just wanted to say I've put a lot of time in, and hours, and it's shit.
Fair enough.
No, it's not really. It's one of the best, potentially the best game. What are you doing? One of the best games I have played in years. Honestly,
really.
Yes, mate.
I find it incredibly special. I go to bed and I'm thinking about it. I'm planning at work, what I want to do next, where I want to go.
I remember that feeling.
I'm just incredible, man. And I'm basically, I don't want to. I've killed the giant, the fire giant.
What?
Good lad. Good lad. Good lad.
What?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Good lad.
Go on. Go on.
Mate, you can get up. It's fine.
Go on.
So I've got to that point, but now I don't want to go further. So I'm basically in the consecrated snowfields now, just mooching around and doing all that. But I've really I feel like I've perfected the build, and like I'm getting all these. Could you get all these weapons?
What is your build?
I'm playing astrologer.
Okay,
good lad.
Full on mage astrologer. Like I've put in. I'm about 73 on intelligence now.
See, the nerfs really fucked my build. The nerfs they destroyed my build. I had to go.
Let's just. Sorry, 73 intelligence.
Yeah.
Chris Hyde, what are you at?
Well, I respect for Night and Flame, didn't I? So,
but you weren't there. You weren't 75. You were high.
I was with the items. I was about 73. Yeah, with all
Jesus, I just need to summon you two guys in and stand behind you. Like one of you can be like the human shield, and the other one can fire off your magic, and I'll be fine.
Yeah,
like even though like there are times where I go somewhere and like you just batter everyone. I've gone back like with the snowfields. I'm not struggling there, but it's tough. Like that still remains no matter where you are and whatever level you are. There's still that challenge that like at its core that challenge.
I haven't struggled in the bits between bosses until Crumbling Barra Missoula, which just
is that after the giant by any chance?
It is,
That's after the giant.
You like, just sit in a corner, Adam. We'll talk. We'll let the big
bosses
boys talk.
have been like seriously. The story bosses have been. I mean, Christ, the story bosses have been nailing me, and it's taken me a long time to get through every single one of them. But the actual areas, I didn't really struggle until, Farah Missoula. That took me a little while to get through.
The enemies in there are a little bit stocky, aren't they?
Yeah. It's any knight in this game. It fucks me. I can't fight the knights.
I find that all the
knights
only
good
have
if I can get on my horse.
Well, yeah, but I find all these knights every knight, and I mean every knight in this game has like their attacks seem to close the distance. Like all of their attacks feel designed that whereas you might be swinging away or whatever or pinging your magic, their attacks, every one of them feels like that if they thrust, they then kind of come forward towards you and some. Like it feels like 2 attacks and they are in your business and you can't actually get away quick enough. So I think that's where like people have talked about the magic being overpowered. I think that's one of the elements there because you can,
Well,
see, I was bitching them with Night and Flame.
Well, you might be saying that, but after the giant, you see.
The whole game changes after the giant.
The worst boss for me has been the giant, the fire giant. Like in terms
that's
of
some comfort.
Struggling,
it's a shit boss.
It was about 15, 16 times, I would say. It took me to kind of get that right, and then the other one was I don't want to ruin it, but at the end of the Rani's quest line, there's a boss that you have to fight, and it's like just did me in so many times.
Is it the one outside the tower without spoiling it?
No, it's the one. It's like a scorpion.
We can't talk in spoilery circles here because like if we're not going to name things, the audience don't know what the hell we're talking about, so we can't.
No, okay.
But like, so it's been like I'm obsessed. Like I can't stop thinking about it.
So could I like? I don't know if I want the answer now. I was just about to ask you. So Chris White, could you offhand? Do you know how many hours and what level you're at? Because you obviously started this significantly later than. Well, not as late as Lyle.
When we got code, I pretty much started chipping in a couple of hours here and there. I'm probably on about 70
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Move on. I don't understand. I don't.
I'm like,
what don't you understand?
How I'm behind everyone when the only person who started before me was Mick. I don't. Fuck this game.
You mean you are about to talk about a game no one has played?
I'm not.
Well, you will.
Oh, that's fine. But listen, let's not get into the game of, the reason Adam hasn't played as much Elden Ring is because he's been reviewing so many games. Because Chris and Mick are right here.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that
shit.
Like, it's not like we've got time machines. It's because you've been playing other stuff.
I would watch a lot of TV at night but I haven't been watching anything because I've just been playing this. Like I was watching.
So good.
But now I'm watching Peacemaker. That'll change a little bit.
I keep seeing a trailer for that, and it does look good.
It's phenomenal, man.
It does look good.
It's funny. It's so funny.
Is it like? Is this the first series? Is it a new thing?
It's the first series
based
on Suicide Squad second film character Peacemaker. and it's just ace. And John Cena, like, he deserves all the awards because he is absolutely amazing.
Okay. He was never that good until this role.
No,
it was like born for this particular role.
It's like Ryan Reynolds.
Are we talking about wrestling? Because I will put a stop to this immediately.
Yeah, his
John Cena's
just
acting.
a wrestler.
Okay, no, fine. Okay, no,
I just him as an actor. He's not had that role, but like he's all very generic until now, and he's just he's so funny.
Just want it to be absolutely.
He's Vin Diesel's brother.
Sure. So Elden Ring, I actually, all joking aside, I do know the reason I'm behind is because I got so pissed off with that giant. I actually hadn't until recently played it for about a week. Like I really did. I went stone cold on it, and I've started again and doing other stuff. I still can't beat the giant. Still can't do it. I'm not. Fuck that game. But like, it is a good game. So I mean, fuck that game. But I love that game. Lyle, hello.
Hello.
How do you pronounce the game that? I'm great, mate. I just want to know. I want you to pronounce the game that you have been playing. I'm not going to attempt it. So you.
I have been previewing. Mm-hmm. That's fine. I looked it up just before we started recording, so I'm ready for this. I have been previewing Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. It's Chronicle, not Chronicles. It's very easy to forget that it's a singular Chronicle.
Eiyuden, obviously.
It is, except it's not. Except it definitely isn't. But it's a really good game. It is. So there was a Kickstarter a few years ago that was basically for this like new Suikoden. That's how you pronounce that word. Game.
Oh, I love that.
Is it? Is that
basically like that? Sort of a new equivalent? Yeah, Suikoden.
Suddenly,
so yeah,
I'm interested in a game
there was going to be a new game
which has never happened. Because Suikoden
never happens. But it's the first time for everything.
Because Suikoden was like one of my favourite PS1 games ever. That and its sequel, 112 Stars of Destiny, and all that lot. Fucking brilliant games. But now I want to play this. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sold it.
So yeah, they're basically. This was a Kickstarter for. There was a Kickstarter for a game called Eiyuden Chronicle. I think it's 100 something war or 100 warriors or something, which is going to be a game that's similar to the very heavily inspired and has some of the developers who worked on some of the Suikoden games, which are like sprawling RPGs where you gather a lot of characters as you go, essentially, at a base level. But this loads and loads of characters, but this game is the that's how many. Well, I don't think I ever did that well. This game isn't that game. This is the action RPG prequel to the game that's coming out before the game, and it's sort of more along the lines of like the Vanillaware games, like an Odin Sphere or a Muramasa, like a 2D sort of like quite combat heavy RPG with, sort of like, you walk side to side, you'll gather materials, you go on quests. Like it all centers around this old like mining town basically that's run down, and you sort of come in as this adventurer who's heard that there's treasure in the area, and to be given access to the treasure, you have to sort of help out the town, essentially. So a lot of it is that you'll go into town, you'll find someone who maybe wants to open a store, so they'll want some materials. So you go out into the forest, you adventure as far as you can, do a bit of combat, come back, and you get stamps for this card that you take with you that's sort of showing that you're doing your job as helping out the mining town. And as you progress, it sort of starts out, it's quite simple. When you're going out, when you're doing like the sort of the combat, you're fighting the enemies, is when you've left the town. It's just sort of, you've got one button for your attacks, you can do a dodge, it's fairly easy. And then a couple of hours into the preview, which I'm pretty sure is just sort of, it's not like a segment from the middle of the game, it's right from the beginning. A couple of hours in, you get a second character who is called Garu, and who's a like humanoid kangaroo with an eye patch and a massive fucking sword. So he's obviously amazing.
Sold again.
And then when you and once you've got once you've got the two characters, your attack button's been the square button for the whole time, and then Garu is basically the triangle button. So you don't swap characters. It's basically like each character is their own attack, and then as you're sort of fighting enemies, you'll sort of, if you time it right, you can sort of almost do like a fighting game tag move to go in and out of battle, and it's really cool. It's really good fun, and I mean, I've got to play. It's all in a preview sense. I've got to play like a sort of 3 or 4 hours, I reckon it was, the sort of slice I got to see. In the final game, there's a third character who's the mage, who I imagine is going to be the face button that I haven't been pressing yet. But like, I imagine there's going to be a lot of sort of tagging in as each character. Everyone has sort of their own special abilities. Like Garu's weapon can break boulders, so if an enemy throws a rock at you, you should be switching to him quickly to break it before it arrives at you. And he can do a block. CJ, who's sort of the more main character, she uses like climbing picks as her weapons, and she can do like a really fast dash to dodge through things. Each character sort of has their own special abilities as well.
It sounds like what was the game that Chris White, you reviewed it a few times, I think. It was like very similar art style. Oh god, I really loved it as well, and I cannot remember the name of it. It had a really yes.
I can. Oh my god,
we're not gonna get it.
The girl with all characters.
That's it.
Her.
Yes.
Yep.
Invincible.
Indivisible.
Indivisible. That's it.
Indivisible.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, we are all 70-year-old men
we
now.
we know games.
Yeah, we're good.
We know more about games than you.
But yes, it sounds like that.
It's kind of that.
It sounds good.
It's kind of that sort of thing in that you have.
I'm going to say it was turn based.
No, it's action. He said.
I just assumed it was
and that's
be a turn-based thing, and especially when you said Suikoden and what have you. So
you've said that two different ways now.
Really
yeah, well, I mean,
like Lyle's saying it one way, and you've said that 2 different ways now.
Yeah, I think he said about 4 different ways. He keeps sort of twanging different ways every time he says it.
Suikoden.
Twanging different ways.
It's because he keeps saying Suikoden, and I always say Suikoden. And I've heard people say Suikoden, so it's just
I thought it was
Suikoden.
That's why when you guys said it before, I was like, okay.
Sucky. I'll just call it Sucky. I like Sucky.
Yeah.
Sucky Den.
So basically,
not even me this time, Lyle, to be honest with you. I'm not being funny. I'm disappointed in him. It's not even me.
Yeah. Where were you when Wife Quest was being played? You'd have loved it. So yeah, there's going to be a game that's more like Suikoden anyway, which is the game following this, and this introduces like some of the characters from that game, and I think there's some like items that will carry across and stuff like that. But this is sort of a weird prequel that I'm not really sure why it exists. When I think, not to say that it's bad, it's really fun. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the full thing. But like when this studio, I think it's Rabbit and Bear Studio, did this Kickstarter to do this, this game inspired by an RPG series a lot of people love. It's kind of weird that before that came out, they made a sequel that was more action-based and sort of completely different genre. Kind of cool, though, and yeah, really good. Can't wait for it to come out.
On that note, we can move over to Mick, who's been up to some Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, I believe.
I have, yeah. Just reviewed it. It'll be, we passed it, but I guess, It's
fucking good. Hope so, because the video's live.
I'll tell you what,
You've lost
what
here,
day
man.
of week it is this week. I'm tired. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. So it's not Borderlands 4. It's more like Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep 2. Actually, it's really good. Like, I know people have been. I never have, because I really like Borderlands. Like, I really like all the Borderlands games. But I know some people have been quite down on it. Borderlands 3 didn't get quite as... wasn't quite as popular as probably Borderlands 2. But it feels like a fresh... Like I said it in the preview a few months ago when, I said it felt like a shot in the arm for Borderlands. And it really is. Like, it's very Borderlands. So you can't get away from that. But because of the change of setting, and they've added a lot to it. Like it's Borderlands with all the stuff that you expect in Borderlands. So you've got all the guns and the random loot and the silly like sense of humor and the graphical style that Borderlands has. You've got all that stuff, but then they've just added stuff to it to make it different, and they've done a really good job of it, I think. And I've seen a few reviews, and it's been doing quite well, better than I thought it would. I thought it was going to be one of those that people probably love to hate because it's Borderlands and it's an easy
Borderlands
target now.
Doesn't have a middle ground. I think you either like Borderlands or you don't.
Yeah, and I think it's got to that point now. I mean, I always joke and call it Gearbox's one good IP, but it is. I mean, it is one of those things where you either talk to people and they say, "Oh, I really, really like Borderlands," or they just don't. There's nobody who's like, "I'll take it or leave it." That doesn't happen, But I do think if you like, I mean, that sounds stupid, doesn't it? If you like Borderlands, you like this. I think, and I said it in the review, I don't think it's going to win over any new fans. Like, if you're not already a fan of the universe and the characters, because Borderlands has some very irritating characters anyway. Like, I love Tiny Tina. I hate Claptrap, and I know a lot of people like Claptrap, and he's in it. Claptrap is there. They're all there. All the characters chip in, but it's weird because it exists in its own little universe. Like, did you guys play the Assault on Dragon's Keep DLC for Borderlands 2? So it's nothing to do with the Borderlands canon. It's nothing. It's just Tina's version of Dungeons and Dragons. That's basically what it is. It's bunkers and badasses. And the whole point of Wonderlands is that you never see your actual character in the game. You see your character in Bunkers and Badasses in the game within the game, but you never see your character actually in the game. And it's because Tina's on like a bounty hunter's ship with two characters, a guy and a female robot, which sounds weird. Valentine, which is Andy Samberg from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and a character called Fret. And the ship has crashed, and they're stranded on this alien planet, and they're waiting for rescue. And so to while away the time, they play Bunkers and Badasses, which is basically it. But it's Borderlands humor, so it's kind of weirdly meta. Like, the game starts doing things that Tina's not in control of as the dungeon master. Like, at the beginning of it, she's in control and she decides the characters, and like at one point she drops like a Cheeto onto the board and it becomes like an impassable barrier that you have to do a quest to get around and things like that. But then, like, as the game goes on, the characters within Bunkers and Badasses start doing stuff that Tina's not like in control of. And obviously it's because Tina's kind of nuts, like every character in Borderlands is kind of just about on the level. But it's quite interesting. It's got some really good stuff in it. And it's like I said, if you like Borderlands, if you like the Borderlands style of gameplay, that just sort of, it's just a series of rooms, but it looks like a great big open area, but it's really just a sequence of rooms where they throw enemies at you and you kill them all, then you move on and do whatever else. And it's got all that stuff, but it's got a lot of new enemies. They've added stuff like they changed the grenade, so your grenade is now a spell. So you equip a spell book instead of a grenade, but there's so many different spells and they do so many different things. So instead of just having like an ice grenade or a fire grenade or whatever, you've got like, you can summon like little wyverns that dive bomb people, or you can freeze characters, or you can like you hit the ground and a great big geyser of fire comes out of the floor, and then there's other things where you can just like siphon health off, and there's all these different things that are inside the spell. And then you've got like your class abilities, which, because the classes are really cool. Like, it's not just a case of like, this guy's the fighter, that guy's the mage, that guy's a thief. You've got these weird like Borderlandsy classes, like the Clawbringer, who's basically a big guy or girl with a hammer, who's got a pet wyvern. And then you've got like the Berserker, which is the melee sort of tank, which does frost damage primarily. But then at a certain point in the game, you pick a second class, and it doesn't merge the classes exactly, but you get all the skills and abilities of both.
Right.
If you know what I mean. But you can't flick between the class abilities at will. You have to go into the menu and select it, which is a little bit of a disappointment. But obviously, because you've got is it 6 classes, or 5 classes. I can't remember now. I think it's 6. So there's quite a good spread of possibilities. Like there's quite a few different combinations of these classes that you can throw together. And then obviously it's designed to be, it's Borderlands, so you can play it solo, which I do, or you can play it with 4 people. And if you've got 4 people with different combinations of classes, there's quite a lot of skills and abilities firing off all at once. And it's just good fun. Like I've been playing. I've put 120 something hours into Elden Ring altogether across 2 characters. So I played like a lot of that, and a lot of it has been very hard going. And you know, I love it. And you know, but to go from that to something like Borderlands, it's just a completely different Wonderland, Tiny Tina's, not Borderlands. It's not Borderlands, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. But to transition from a game like Elden Ring to a game like this, I mean, I thought it was a breath of fresh air when I played Shadow Warrior 3, but that took me like six hours and it was done.
Yeah.
But this is just great because it is a big open world as well. It has got that Borderlands formula of it just keeps opening up because you've got this overworld where you're like a little big-headed version of your character that walks around this overworld. And then you can go into settlements and towns, or you get random encounters that happen on the board, and there's puzzles and there's secrets and things to find. But then when you actually go into the areas, they're just traditional Borderlands maps, and they're huge. Like, and there's so many of these different maps scattered about that you go into, and then you might do a few quests in there, then come back out to the overworld, and then go back in later. And it's massive. Like, it's a really big game. But it's just so much fun. Like it's a laugh, you know, and the humor's on point. I think Borderlands gets a little bit of stick sometimes for not being, or for overdoing the humor. Like it can overcook the humor a little bit, but it does a really good job of sort of staying. I wouldn't say level. It's Borderlands, but it made me laugh a lot, and I was expecting, because Borderlands 3 I really enjoyed the game, but the humor, like I didn't really like the villains, whereas the villain in this is a lot more like, he's just Handsome Jack. It's not Handsome Jack, but he's that almost exactly that character where he just
dropped a massive spoiler then, and
no, he's the same. You know how Handsome Jack would just come in and then just insult you for a few lines and then just fuck off again.
Yeah,
it's like that again, and he just comes on to take the piss out of whatever you're doing. And then he goes off, and it's got such a universe now. Borderlands, it's characters, and they bring them all back every game. Like they're all not. I appreciate seeing, but yeah, read the review.
Fair enough. I want to know about
Salt
and Sacrifice, but I don't know how much. What can you say? If that makes sense. Because this is a game that everyone sort of loved the original of.
The preview build, yeah, Salt and Sanctuary. So the preview build is it's quite small. So it's weird because Salt and Sanctuary was fucking ages ago now, and I didn't realize it was 2015 or something that it came out. So it's quite a while ago now. It's nearly 7 years old, and so I don't know how much people will remember, but I mean, it's 2 Dark Souls. That's almost exactly what it is. Salt and Sacrifice it's the same again. But you can see, because this was like Scar Studios was a one-man team, wasn't one-man studio. Like James Silver, who's in my eyes is a fucking genius. Who because he did, if you remember, like Dishwasher Smile. Was it Dishwasher Smile? Do you remember them? The dishwasher games and. Was it I can't remember, but yeah. So yeah, James Silver. So he did Salt and Sanctuary all on his own. There's another studio involved in this one, so I don't know if he's brought somebody else in or if he's working with other people. But it's bigger. Like there's a sense that Salt and Sacrifice is. I mean, I've only played so the preview build has a small section of the game. So it has like the hub town, and it has a couple of little dungeons, and then it's got one main, which I figure is a main story boss, which you have to sort of beat to unlock leveling up and things like that. It's very much like a Dark Souls game, but it's also got more of a story than Salt and Sanctuary had. So Salt and Sanctuary, I remember at the beginning of Salt and Sanctuary, you were just on a ship and the boat sank, and then you woke up and they said, you've got to find this princess who was on the boat. I can't even remember if you ever did. And then you just basically go through a Dark Souls world in 2D, killing bosses but whereas this is in this one, you at the beginning when you pick a class, you pick your class and you make your character, and then you pick a sin. Okay. You have to pick a crime that your character committed, and there's loads. They range from like murder to drunkenness. You know, there's this big range of
That's
crimes.
A spectrum of that,
yeah, and it's like that. So it's like murder, forgery,
murder to having a couple of cans.
Yeah, perjury, drunkenness. One of them is like vagrancy. So it has this like gamut of sins. But so you pick a crime, and basically what it is that feeds into how people react to you and what people say to you, the NPCs.
What did you pick?
Adultery, I think.
Good lad.
So you and because you've committed a crime, you've been shipped off to this place where you've become a marked inquisitor, it's called, and you've been branded, and the brand is kind of like the dark sign in Dark Souls.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but I love that you have got all this from a small slice, and you've explained more than I could about the whole of Elden Ring.
Yeah.
But I've just carry on. Sorry.
So you become a marked inquisitor, and basically your job is to hunt down mages, because mages in this world are
overpowered.
Like,
blimey, someone's
abomination.
Yeah. Carry on, Mick.
So you're a marked inquisitor. That's your job. So you get to and there's like a little hub world, a hub city like settlement where there's a lot of stuff missing from the beta build. Like there's no flavor text on a lot of the items, so I don't know what the fuck anything does. I'm picking stuff up and there's no way of knowing what it's for yet. And there's a lot of stuff where you go up to a character and they go, oh, you must go to such and such village and find that, you know, like we were joking around the Discord about Elden Ring at the beginning when everybody was saying, oh, you've got to find the crooked finger of whatnot from this guy. And everyone was kind of, that's kind of what this is at the minute in the beta of Salt and Sacrifice. I don't know what anything is. People are just telling me to do things. And then you go through and I beat the first boss. See, I always thought Salt and Sanctuary, the bosses weren't that hard because of the 2D plane. It's a bit like Dead Cells in that respect. Like they can throw whatever they want at you, but because you're on a 2D plane, you're really just dodging forward and dodging back. And it's just a question of timing. You're not, it's not like Dark Souls or Elden Ring where you've got the whole arena to sort of move around in and take cover behind things. You can't do that. You can just dodge back and forward. So I found the bosses in Salt and Sanctuary not that tough, and I feel like that was Salt and Sacrifice. The two bosses that are in it. It took me a few attempts. I didn't like murk them, but it was a similar thing. It was just a question of getting the time in and the spacing on their attacks, and then you're able to get through it. But it's got a lot more colour to it than Salt and Sanctuary. Salt and Sanctuary was a very grey game. It had that filter on it permanently. This it just feels a bit brighter. The characters, I was going to say the sprites then, like it was 1996. The characters they're chunkier and there's a lot more color to them and a bit more detail, and the world looks brighter and it's got that. But it's fucking hard to fight the standard enemies because you can so easily get overwhelmed on a 2D plane by two or three enemies that are ahead of you. You hit the one that's slightly back can hit. It's difficult to gauge distance properly when you've got a lot of enemies on you. But yeah, I think it's got me, the beta has got me excited. I think it lasts for about an hour and a half. I played it 3 times with 3 different characters because you get to a certain door and you try and open it and it says this door is bound by the power of the demo or something, so you can't open it and go any further.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's quite, there's a few little bits like that where it's like I said, James Silver, I think he's brilliant, and what he did with Salt and Sanctuary was incredible for a one-man studio. I mean, it puts a lot of big, probably AAA studios to shame at times in some of Salt and Sanctuary, and Salt and Sacrifice is going to do very similar. Very good. But like I said, I've played a beta, so it was very, it ran smooth and it played fine, but it was, there's things where they're going to have to balance. They're going to put that flavor text in. They're going to put in a bit more character. Things are going to make more sense when you play it narratively.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
But it's good, and I think I'm really excited to release in May now.
Glad to hear. It's May, isn't it?
It's good.
Best till last, Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
What have you been playing?
What have you been playing, Adam?
Just the best till last, right? It's like,
Adam, what have you been playing that's not Elden Ring? Because that fucking fire giant.
Just Kirby.
Is there a fire giant in Kirby?
Is there a fire giant in Kirby? There is fire in
Kirby.
Kirby.
There hasn't been it.
Fuck you,
Is there a fucking finger butthole in Kirby?
Jesus. Bit nasty. We're a bit narky, aren't we, here tonight? It's a bit no, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is just one of those things where like I don't know that like come the end of the year everyone will be like raving about it the way they probably will be Elden Ring or something like that. But it's one of those that you just like I had it very early, so I had plenty of time to play it, which was quite nice because I never felt like I had to rush to do anything. And like if I had a couple of days where I didn't play it, and then I did play it, I'd be like, why have I not been playing this? It's so good. It just feels so nice, and it really does give me that Mario Odyssey vibe of it's like, because obviously Mario Odyssey is wider and bigger, the levels are bigger, but it kind of takes that idea of going around a level and finding all the moons, right? But it does it in a more not linear. It does it in a more Mario 64 way. So like the level is this is stage 1, 2. It doesn't say that. Okay, it doesn't actually say like this is stage 1, 2. I actually think it does. Now I think about it. But whatever, it does that, and there's like 5 objectives in every level. One of them is to just finish it, to get the way through to the end of the level, and then there'll be 4 others, and they will range. Some of them they reuse, and some of them are really clever and unique, and often they won't even tell you what they are until you like. I walked a duck to its mother, and then it pops up going, you've walked 1 duck of 5. It's that's one of the hidden objectives for this level, right? So there's a lot of that, but it's the way they've hidden this stuff. Like it's full of collectibles, and everything is hidden in that way. It's the one thing I think it's difficult to get across without showing, is that like in Mario Odyssey, where you see something, like you see a lump in the ground, and you think, what if I do like a stomp on that, and you do, and a moon comes out. It's that kind of thing. Like you'll look off to the side and you don't have full control. It's like you can sort of nudge the camera in a weird way, but it's like you don't bother because it doesn't do anything. And it might even have been in my head, but you see something and you sort of go, I wonder if I can do that. And they've thought of that, and it does work, and it's like 1 of 5, or just opens up a door, or blows up a wall for you to get like it's got like the little gacha egg things, that you get out of a slot machine with twist, and it, like I say, every time you think, I wonder, it's been designed for you to go, I wonder, because they've already thought ahead of you, and they've done that. That's exactly what they've done. And surprisingly, like, because these are enclosed levels, it's not like an open world in the way that like Mario Odyssey is, right? So a lot of these levels are enclosed, and then all of a sudden you'll just spot this small little hole, and you'll think, wait, can I just? And you walk off, and then you walk off that way, and it's like the level loads to another sort of area, and it's like they really have, like I say, thought of everything in that respect. Then on top of that, there's these time trial levels, which is where I think the difficulty is actually, because some of them are bloody hard and the par times are brutal. And they give you a special currency which lets you upgrade Kirby's copy abilities. So you all know the sword, you all know he can be a ranger, he can shoot fire, blah, blah, blah. They're all upgradable. All of them are upgradable. And they're really hard to hit par time on, like really hard, some of them. Some of them aren't. But they also do stuff like within the game with the mouthful stuff, which is the other major new thing. The mouthful thing, like I said it in the review. I don't want to say they're underused. Right? I don't think they're underused, but they're definitely not overused. And I feel like I could have had a bit. I think like if they'd have. But by the time you're in the last world, you are sort of running out of. There's not much new. It is just a more difficult game, and you have to use everything you've learned along the way, kind of thing. But that's another thing, is that it's actually, I didn't die a lot, but towards the end of the game, I started to, have to be a bit more careful, whereas the rest of the game, you can, even on wild mode, which is like, I guess, experienced mode, it's not difficult. They do reuse a few bosses. They do reuse a few boss rush ideas. But it's those little things that kind of stop it from being stop me from going, this is on par with Odyssey. Do you know what I mean? It's those little things. Nonetheless, if you like platform games, absolutely, this needs to be on your list to play, because
it really does feel like it's going to scratch an itch, like you say, like when you said that, Mick, about something else other than like Elden Ring, like think of a completely different game. That feels like to me going to be the foil to Elden Ring next, I think, because it just feels like, even if it's like Odyssey Light, which it sounds like it is, like that's still great, and I still think from what I've seen and what you've said that it just looks like what I want to play right now, if that makes sense.
This will, knowing you as I do, this will be so up your street, because it is that thing of, it's collectibles, it's a collectathon. Right, and I don't mean that in a negative. Like, some people will go, oh god, but you either like that kind of thing or you don't. And I think if you like Odyssey, you do like that kind of thing, and you're kidding yourself if you say you don't. Because once you complete Odyssey, it is just a collectathon. It is about finding the secrets that are hidden throughout the world. And I get that vibe from this. Like, I finished it obviously quite a while ago, but I'm not done with it, if that makes sense. Yeah. I'm going to pick this up and chip away. It's got local co-op as well, I should mention, which is fine. It's kind of...
Is it proper co-op, or is it asymmetrical? Or
how do you mean?
Well, like when it's Mario, sometimes it's like, you control a star rather than Mario.
No, it's not quite that. Like, you play a Waddle Dee as the co-op buddy.
Oh,
obviously,
yeah, no,
you don't have the you can't suck up powers, you can't do the copy abilities, but you do have a spear, and you can do like a flying attack, and it's fine. It kind of, I want to say the old Lego games where if you went off screen, it would warp you to them. I think it was them because they started doing that dynamic split screen. Now, I'm not saying it should have that, because I don't think that's what this game is here for. But it does do that if you go, and it's quite tight. I think
it's a sign around.
You what? I think Mick's internet's gone mad. But
I was gonna make an Elden Ring joke.
Making an Elden Ring joke, I think.
Everything froze.
Fair enough. I think.
Don't worry.
Continue. I think the co-op is designed for maybe like parent and child, because it feels very tethered, and of course it makes it easier because it's not like Elden Ring. No, because it's not like Elden Ring where the bosses have double health or whatever. It's not that at all. It's just a nice little added feature. I'll be honest. If it weren't so tethered, they could have made it online. There is online functionality. Like it counts stats. This game in a really weird way. Like there's mini games and stuff, and like one of them's a fishing mini game, because of course, and it tells you like what the biggest fish has been caught, and like it tells you how many coins have been collected from anyone connected online. And there's this weird little like present system where you can get. I think they're going to release passwords online. And you can put it in, and you get like items that you can use in the game. So it's some weird stuff. There's a lot of fan stuff. There's a lot of if you're a fan of Kirby, you'll be like, oh, that's great, that's cool. It's just lovely. It's lovely. It's playable. It's a bit slower than like a Mario. Kirby doesn't move as fast. When you jump and you sort of do your floaty thing, it's very slow. You don't want to be doing that very long because he's too slow. But like as a game, like it's just thoroughly lovely and enjoyable, and I really haven't got a lot bad to say about it, aside the fact that it just ever so slightly loses its way towards the end, and not in a bad way, like just a bit,
There's not many games that you just call lovely these days.
No.
You know what I mean? Like that's a rare thing to hear. It's just a nice game to play. Like everything, like we said earlier, everything at the moment is open world, or it's an indie roguelike, or Yes, I mean, I probably won't play Kirby.
No,
it sounds nice.
But there's not a minute went by that I wasn't enjoying myself playing this game. You know, and that's a. And not being funny. Play the demo. If you play the demo and you really didn't like it, cool. Don't buy it. But like, I really find it hard to imagine a platform fan would play the demo and not go, "This is great." Because like the demo's, I think, a few levels from the first world, and that first world that I was able to preview that time, I played through that first world, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I was not expecting it to be this good. Like, I don't really tend to like the Kirby games. I remember the DS one that you could draw. Can't remember. You could draw lines for him. I can't think what it was called.
Yeah.
Kirby Touch.
Yeah,
Like
Canvas
Paintbrush
Curse? Or Rainbow
Canvas
Paintbrush
Curse?
or something.
Was that it?
Oh, Canvas Curse. Yeah, I think it was Power Paintbrush.
Yeah, that's
in the
right.
US,
Well, it did have a different name. Yeah, and like Epic Yarn, I never played, but I played Yoshi's ones, and they're good games. But again, they're too easy to be like thoroughly enjoyable. But like, I don't. I've just always found that Kirby felt like the game they designed for a younger audience because it was so easy. And this one, it's not hard, but although I will say there is challenge available if you want it. But it's just lovely. It's lovely. And on that note, that's the end of a podcast. We have got some listener correspondence that we will do when we're having a few less technical issues. And hey, if you didn't notice them, it's just how good I am. You'll have noticed them. You'll have noticed them, just to be absolutely clear. But we'll save them until next week when we've got a few less games to talk about. You can go to patreon.com/GodIsAGeek where you can hear this podcast early. You can get involved in our Discord there where we've got a lovely community of just lovely people. The Kirbys of the gaming podcast community world. Does that work?
There are worse things to call them.
And Lyle.
And Lyle, yeah.
Aye.
He's the Dark Souls of online community.
Lyle's the Dark Souls of podcast. Anyway.
I'll take it. People love Dark Souls.
Thank you to Chris, Lyle, and Mick for being here for this podcast and chat about their games. And to everybody else, we will speak to you next week or whenever you choose to listen. Bye for now. Bye.